So today we're going to talk about depth, width, and length. We're going to focus on depth, as well as we're going to apply it to depth of Chachma. If you're looking specifically for the explanation of the depth and the depth of Chachma, then this is the place. If not, it's recommended you go back to lesson 1, as each lesson builds upon the prior lessons. The link for lesson 1 is in the description below. So up until now, we've discussed what's called the Gimel Reish, the 3 heads, right, in the 10 Sephiros. So they're the 3 top Sephiros, so the Sephiros of the intellect is Chachma, Bina, Das, Chabad. We're now going to explain how in each of those 3 is made up itself of 3. Just to introduce this concept, we know that all the Sephiros, actually, all 10 Sephiros, are each made up of 10 Sephiros. So you have, for example, Chachma, Bina, Das, right, are the first 3 of the 10 Sephiros. Each of those have 10 Sephiros. So there's Chachma of Chachma, Bina of Chachma, Das of Chachma, Chesed of Chachma, the Gevura of Chachma, etc., etc. So each Sephira has 10 within it. And by the way, each one of those 10 have 10 in it, and each of those 10 have 10 in it. And that's actually ultimately how we end up with things being different down here, because depending on it's almost like, think of it like a genetic signature. So the genetic signature of the world is how the combinations are of those sephiros. So for example, let's just say Chachma of Bina of Tiferes of Chachma is one kind of tree, and Chachma and Bina of Chachma of Chesed of Tiferes is a different kind of tree, and the different limbs on the tree and all the way down to different molecules. That's why each molecule is unique, because it has a signature, a unique signature. So now we're going to go into. So let's just recap what that Chabad is. Chachma Bina Das. Chachma is the knowledge of the essence of the thing or the concept itself. Like in the allegory of a building, it's the beauty of the building itself. And then we have Bina, which is not the essence of the thing itself, but it's like a clothing to the knowledge of the thing itself, and it's the explanation of the thing in explanations and letters, right? Which the explanation of the beauty of the building is not the actual beauty of the building; it's an explanation of the beauty of the building. And then you have Das, which connects to these 2 things. It's the connecting and focusing of the powers of Chachma and Bina. Now, just one thing that I'd like to clarify a little bit, sort of ahead of time, because we're going to see 2 things. We're going to see sometimes Chachma Bina Das, and sometimes we're going to see Keser, which means crown, Chachma Bina. Now we know there's Chachma Bina Das is the upper 3, Chesed Gvura Tiferes is the upper emotions, right? That's 6 already. Then the lower emotions is Netzach Chod Yesod, and then you have Malchus, which is expression. So 3, 3, and 3 is 9, and Malchus 1 is 10. So wait a second, if there's Das and if there's Keser, that would make 11, and we know there is only 10 Sephiras. Not 9, not 11, 10. So just to give a brief explanation, it's explained in our explanation 2 of Hillel of Paritch. When we go back to when we're going to go to explanation 1 of Hillel of Paritch, it's explained more in depth, but just in a general way, just to keep from confusion. So it should be recognized that Das and Keser are part of the same thing. Like we mentioned before, that what's Das? The Das is the connection and the focusing of the Chachma and the Bina. And what does that come from? What's that caused by? That's caused by in other words, the strength of the Das is caused by the Chush, which the Chush is the connection to the desire at the time one desires. Right? So the desire, Keser, the crown, has 2 parts of it, is pleasure and desire. So this is all part of one line. The Keser, the crown, and Das is part of one thing, and they're sometimes used interchangeably. They're not exactly the same thing. They're different parts of the same thing. But just to give that, we're not going to go into that extensively right now. We will later. But just to give that introduction, just so we're not confused by there being sometimes Keser and sometimes Das, they are essentially two aspects of the same thing. So we spoke about Chochma, Bina, and Das, Umi'ata, and now Yesh Lahavin, Eich Sheyesh Bekol Echad Megimel Chelke HaSeichel. By the way, we're starting over here. It's page 299. Down on the left column, Umeyata over here. Umeyata yesh lahavin eich sheyesh bekol echad megimel chelki haseichel Chabad hanal gimel bechinis. So now we need to understand how there is in each one of the three parts of the intellect, which is Chabad, how in each one of them there are three levels. That each one of these three in itself is made up of three. Shehu bechinas eimek ve'erech v'reichav, which these are the levels of depth, length, and width. Now, it's not just coincidental, by the way, that, for example, the dimensions, the physical dimensions in this world are also the three dimensions is height, width, and length, essentially depth, length, and width. Because the dimensions of the world are an outcropping of the above dimensions. Because obviously we're not only talking about the dimensions within a person's mind, but being that a person is a reflection of his creator, these are also the dimensions of creation in general. So there are three things: depth, length, and width. Kihine. Because behold, bechinas eimek einay mohus klal. The depth is not in existence at all. Rak shehu bechinas hischabrus mi mohus lemohus, but rather it is only a connection of one existence to another existence. Uve'etzem hu bechinas ayin, but it itself is a nothing. It's a non-existence. Let's give an example, a couple of examples of that now. So, for example, a corner that is connecting two walls, the mizrach v'dorim, of east and south. So you have, for example, the 90-degree angle where two walls connect of the east wall and the south wall connect. Now, we're not talking about Pittsburgh walls, which after sitting here for 100 years have become more circular than rectangular. We're talking about, in this case, imagine two lines intersecting and we have a proper 90-degree angle. Shekol mashi etzairu ezem mohus, that anything that we can picture, any sort of existence, shayich l'deifen mizrach l'deifen dorim. Any molecule is either part of the eastern wall or it's part of the south wall. Rak bechinas ha'ayin ha'mechabrem, but the nothingness that connects them, v'hu ha'nikra keren, this is called the corner. So a corner where you have this wall and this wall, that corner is really not, it doesn't exist. There are no molecules there. Any molecule either is part of this wall, and the proof is if I move the walls a little bit from each other, there's no corner anymore. And the second I put them together, there's a corner. But really, all of the physicality, all the material existence is part of either one wall or the other wall, and the corner is the non-existence that connects the two of them. V'chein, another example, bein hashmoshes. I think it's called twilight, where the night or the day turns into night. Hu bechinas ha'ayin, right? So you have this is the nothing hamechaber layla v'yoyim, that connects night and day. V'shehu einim mohus zmani klal, that it is. So before we were talking about an existence in space. Right, a corner doesn't have an existence in space. Rather, any existence in space belongs to one wall or the other wall. Now we're talking about existence in time. That the middle between the day and the night, there is no such time. It is not an existent time at all. Any point in time that you can imagine. Shayach l'yoyim l'layla. It's either day or it's night. It's one or the other. Right now, it's either day or it's night. It's never between the day and the night. There is no such time. But yet there is a point between the day and the night. But that point doesn't exist. Rather, it connects the day to the night. Not to bring a more spiritual example, not an example not in purely physical molecules. Mirav hamashpia seichel talmid, from a teacher who is giving over an intellect to a student. Shemuchrech liyes b'mashpia b'chinas ayin. That the mashpia, right, the one giving over, must have a nothingness to him. Meaning what? Shehu hanochas atzmius eir sichlei haruchni hamevii lislapshus b'seichel shalifi erech kli hamekabel. That this is putting aside the essence light of his intellect, of the spiritual essence light of his intellect, and he has to bring it down into and enclose it into an intellect that is according to the capabilities of the receiver. So, for example, if Albert Einstein was teaching his grandson, I actually don't know if he had a grandson or not. That's you have to Google that one. But assuming that he did have a grandson, if he was teaching his grandson, he can't start teaching him Albert Einstein concepts. There's a little kid, and Albert Einstein has to remove all of the greatness of his knowledge in mathematics and in science, and teach the kid 1 + 1 = 2. So he has to remove all of his knowledge and just give what can become enclosed in a concept that this receiver can understand. So this is called the ayin of the mashpia, the nothingness of the giver, that he's removing himself from he's removing all of the greatness and bringing it down just into what the receiver can receive, right? And just like the Creator does when he hides all of his greatness and all of the revelation of his light, because we couldn't exist with all of that light. So this is the same sort of thing. V'chein ba'mekabel, and so too in the receiver. Muchrech li is bittul v'shemamen b'sichlei. There also has to be a nullification and like a lowliness, or shemamin is it can mean like desolation, it can mean depression sometimes, but it means like a lowliness, a humility. B'sichlei hamegush, I mean his physical intellect. Shehoya lo yadheina, that he had until now. Sheyuchel lekabel seichel mashpia, that he can receive the intellect that the teacher is trying to give him. Uchemaimer, and like it says in Gemara Shabbos, I think it's Gemara Shabbos, Kol Talmid she'ein sifseisav neitfei smar, any student that his lips aren't dripping bitterness, and like Mirashi there explains, neitfei smar means that means out of awe, means that he's in awe of the teacher. That in other words, he has to be humble and have humility to the teacher, and in order to properly receive what the teacher is saying, right? We know a student that knows everything isn't learning nothing, isn't learning anything, something like that. V'zehu b'chinas ha'ayin b'mekabel, and this is the level of nothingness in a receiver, right? In the student. Shehu ashiflus shebei, this is the lowliness of spirit, so to speak. We're not talking about depression, we're talking about humility here. V'chol ma shehu b'chinas bittul v'shiflus b'yeser, and however much this student is more nullified and more more lowly, more in awe of the teacher, right? Yeser yisrachiv sichlei, his mind will widen more lekabel shafa min hamashpia, to receive what the teacher is giving over. V'zehu ikar ha'emek, and this is the main idea of emek, of depth. Right? We said depth, width, and length. So this is the main idea of depth. Shehu bechinas ha'ayin shel hamikabel, that this is the nothingness of the receiver. Shemizeh nishlam kavonas hashefa b'shleimus, that through this the intention of the what is given over is completed in its totality. Right? What does it mean? It's that it's complete in totality. Kol ikar kavonas hashefa, because the whole idea of the intent of the giving over, hu sheyiskabel b'mekabel, is that it should be received in the student. Right? Why is the teacher teaching? If the student isn't listening, what does the teacher need to teach for? The whole idea, the whole reason that the teacher is putting the effort to nullify all of his own knowledge to give over to the student is because the student will accept it. And through the depth, niklat hashefa b'chitev b'chliya mekabel v'day lemevin. And through the depth, however strong will be the depth, right, to the degree to which the student removes himself and focuses on what the teacher is saying. So through the depth, it's however strong the depth will be, the what is being given over will stick the best way in the vessels of the receiver. And therefore the idea of depth in Lashon HaKodesh, in the holy tongue, Hu cholol reikon, is an empty hollow. Hahilich lemata mata, that goes down, v'chulu, etc. V'day lemevin. And this is enough to understand. So this is what depth is. Depth is the ayin. It's the removal of self. It's the nullifying of self. In the next lesson, we'll discuss how the depth is applied to Chachma, the depth of Chachma.